Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to another informative evening of Spotlight. I'm Ed Juenka. And this evening we have the Acting Chief Immigration Officer, Mrs. Geraldine Ritter Freeman. She's here to talk about the changes in immigration and passport regulations, new fees, visa exemption program, and much, much more. We're also going to have a little later on the Director of the Financial Services Implementation Unit, Mr. Kedrick Pickering, Mr. Kedrick Malone. Mr. Kedrick Malone, and the Senior Counsel at Walkers and BVI Forward Champion, Miss Lisa Letsom, Mr. Penn Letsom, to talk about where we are with the BVI Forward. But before I get into the program, I'd like to take a moment to offer my sincere condolences to all families, of course, who've lost loved ones recently, and especially to the families of Mr. Neville Burke and Mrs. Geneva Letsom. I've always revered Mr. Burke as one of those persons, one of those members of our community who has made significant contributions to the territory at a time when the BVI was not as well known and as prosperous as it is today. He was one of those members of the community that I always refer to who still have the dirt under their fingernails from clawing, eking out progress in the territory. And he was a gentleman that I used to talk to regularly. And I used to take my truck by the garage, and we'd have the best conversations. He would, as an elder, he would talk to me about life and give me a lot of life lessons, and I really appreciated the relationship I had with Mr. Burke. And of course, I'm very sorry to hear that he's passed, and wish God's comfort to the family. Also, Miss Geneva Letsom, she was one of my other mothers. Everybody used to call her Mima. And I mean, like this lady just radiated love wherever she went. You know, it's like she see me, she see anybody, you know. But I remember her fondly for her hugs and her kisses and her encouragement. She always used to encourage me, keep doing what you're doing, don't mind what they say. You know, just keep going, you're going good. And I always felt so warm around her. And she again has made tremendous contribution to the territory. I know other people won't recognize it because she's humble. She's always been, there, but not really seen. But through her legacy, through her children, she has certainly a legacy of contributions to the territory where those children continue to make significant contributions. And as a mother, another mother, she certainly will be sorely missed. And so, time is getting down where our elders are being, is passing on to another life, and, we have to step up to the plate and use the wisdom that they've left with us to continue the progress that they have made. So, of course, again, I wish all the families of Mr. Burke and Mima, Miss Letsom, God's comfort. I want to welcome my good sister, Geraldine. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yes. The new acting Chief Immigration Officer.
That's correct.
You're making a joke at that. You're making a joke at that. You're just moving. You're just moving. How that feels? I mean,
to be moving. It feels good to be moving.
It feels good to be moving.
Yes.
Yeah. How it feels to be the Chief Immigration Officer? I mean, that's like you're right in the firing line, right? You're at the gate. That's the main gate. You know what I'm saying? You're the main gatekeeper.
All right.
Yeah, that's a big job.
Yes, it is a big job. Very demanding, I would say, but rewarding. I don't think a lot of people appreciate how rewarding it can be when you're dealing with the law enforcement side, of course, that has its, its benefits in terms of, securing borders and that sort of thing. But when you're dealing with people's lives, and every day, you have an opportunity to touch a life in a way that's meaningful and significant, to them and to me, it is a rewarding job. I think people would be surprised to hear me say that, but there is some reward in being the chief immigration officer.
Well, I guess it would
Yeah.
have to do with your personality and the type of person you
Sure.
are, because people always, and I'm one of those persons who always feel like immigration and customs and police are like monsters.
Oh boy.
It's like, man,
Yeah.
immigration, they got good immigration, especially when living in New York.
Yeah.
People think that you got to wait long here on immigration service. They
Elsewhere,
don't know
yeah.
what it's like in other
Absolutely,
places.
yeah.
But going to the immigration
There's
department
a fair, yeah.
is, you take a Valium or something. To wait and
Yeah.
and not know what the
Sure.
outcome is going to be.
Sure.
So do you sense that anxiety in the people that you're serving, and are you thinking about
Oh,
what
absolutely.
you would do to
Yeah.
help to
Yeah.
mitigate
Yeah.
that anxiety for them?
Oh, absolutely. The fear is there. But I think that coming into the position, I sort of understood that it existed. And like I said, with my personality, I think that one of my aims is to work towards changing that sort of environment where it's not so, people aren't so fearful or
Doesn't seem so hostile.
intimidated by coming in. And a lot of the times they're intimidated by the process. Yes, they're intimidated by officers, yes. But
I don't smile a lot. It's like, so once you come an immigration officer, you put out a mean face, you stop smiling.
Yes. We have some work to do in those areas, because I think it's so much more than protecting. It's about serving. And I'm a public servant, and I've been in the service for about 17 years now.
What is it?
And it's time flies. And my main goal is to serve. And with that in mind, I intend to, sort of mentor, coach where I can, and sort of bring that sort of environment so that it's not just about protection, but it's also about serving in this capacity.
Okay. Now, there are quite a few changes that have happened recently. You came into the job. Did you bring a vision of your own, mission of your own, and goals to achieve, and a strategy? Or you come in and the existing vision is there, the goals are there, the mission is there, and the strategy is there, and then that's what you're going to follow? How are you handling that as a new person?
Well, ironically, Mr. Smith, you would know that I worked, my substantive post is the Deputy Secretary in the Premier's office, and part of my remit was working along with the Immigration Department. So in that capacity, I've been working with the Immigration Department for the past 2 years or so with my predecessor, Mr. Ian Penn, as well as the Chief Immigration Officer before him, which was Mr. Hill. So I've worked with them, and I've gained a greater appreciation of the mandate of the department. And as the desk officer, I've been working very closely with them from a policy perspective. And so a lot of the changes that we were recently able to implement, I sort of was working along with the process in getting those policies through cabinet and to the House, etc. So they weren't completely new to me. And in fact, the vision and the mission and all of that you've described isn't completely new to me, because, like I said, I have been working with the heads and the team at immigration for some time now. So it's just a matter of now bringing a perspective from where I come from in the ministry, and given my service background, having been a senior public officer working in the London office, for example, working at the college for a brief stint, and having those experiences, being the former chief information officer, so I bring that communication, image building,
Public relations,
yes, public
all
relations,
that.
to the table in terms of my own contribution.
To reduce our anxiety.
Reduce your anxiety, exactly. So I suspect some of those things would have a different flavor, so to speak. But overall, I understand the mandate. Coming into the department, of course, I was able to learn more about operations on the ground, how the processes actually work on a day-to-day basis, the paperwork, the handling of labor clearances, coming, your relationship with the labor department and the customs department and the police department. Now, after 6 weeks on the job, I'm gaining a greater appreciation of how those processes work. And so with that information now, I can begin to shape and direct and guide and provide that sort of leadership.
Okay. Now you don't know how long you're going to be there. I think the person with his pen is on study leave.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't, how long is he on study leave?
I was appointed for a year.
Oh, you were appointed for a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a year to sort of do what you think needs to be done. What you see as some of your priorities coming in?
Well, the absolute priority, and I'm so fortunate to be able to come into the department at this time because we're heavily focused on reform and policy development. There's been a cry for some time from the immigration team. And by the way, I should also say that, it's been 6 weeks and I've been working along with a really great team at the immigration department, a really, really great team. We have persons who are seasoned, over 30 plus years, knowledge, experience that is surmountable. I mean, it's really, really, I really can't explain the amount of knowledge that some of these people have on the job. And they have been quite facilitating and accommodating, and I've been oriented well into the process, and for that I'm grateful. But the reform and policy development has to be the absolute priority for me at this moment. Coming from the Premier's office and knowing what is needed, working along with the Financial Services Implementation Unit, and you mentioned that Mr. Malone will be on after, and how coincidental is that? I'm working very closely with Mr. Malone and his team on the recommendations that came from the McKinsey study. There are some 30 recommendations that has to do with labor and immigration, and so we are working together to try to implement some of those recommendations, mainly, and a lot of them will have to, the act will have to be amended in order to facilitate some of these recommendations. And so there's quite a bit of work to be done, but I believe that now is the time, and if we can get it done in this season, I think we'll be better off as a territory.
And what are the what you hope to achieve with this reform, socially, economically? What the benefits of the country would be from these reforms?
Yeah.
And we'll get into what the reforms are as well.
Sure. I think one of the things strategically that we try to identify is, as a department, what is your ultimate goal? And there's this strategic priority that we have. We say we want to improve territorial border protection through a cutting-edge border management system. And of course, we use words like cutting edge, but it really means keeping up with the rest of the world. Yeah. Modernization. We also want enhancement of the immigration laws and policies, and again, best practices and staying in line and being able to meet certain requirements. And we also want to ensure alignment with the strategic vision for development of economic sectors, the economic sectors here in the Virgin Islands. So essentially, in summary, where we think about law enforcement as immigration policy in terms of control and protection, I think we're moving in a direction where we can say that immigration policy also amounts to economic policy. And so what we do and how we do it in immigration has a great impact on the economy and the various sectors, albeit financial services, tourism. Now we're talking about arbitration and all of these things. And immigration plays a great role in that. And so when we're looking at reform, we're looking at, yes, security, but we're also looking at the economy and how we factor into that bigger picture, the macro picture that we're looking at.
Does that mean relaxation or easier access to the country?
Easier access. streamlining processes. So where we have perhaps processes 3 or 4 steps at labor, and then you have to come to immigration, and then you have 3 or 4 similar steps. We're looking at how we can merge services, streamline forms, of course get into more e-processing where we're doing stuff in a modern era as opposed to manual.
So we could process our immigration
That's what
applications online.
We're looking at all of that. That's the direction that we're heading towards. Now, like, immigration is not unique. We hear the cry about resources, financial resources, and the like that are affecting, progress, so to speak. And so we fall into that category where we have to be innovative and creative in our strategies, because we know we don't have the kind of resources that we would like to just take up and get a new border management system, for example, that would be more expedient in terms of entry. It costs money.
Infrastructure, you talk about programs, computers, hardware, software.
Exactly.
Office space, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. And those things are what they are. But where we can make changes, right? That's what we're looking at. We're looking at those low-lying fruits, so to speak, that we can take and grab and make those changes immediately. Like, we can reform the way we issue medical forms, for example. The medical forms, the way I see it, has been around forever. And we're now looking at amending it because maybe some of the requirements in there, they're no longer necessary. And sometimes we just go through the motion and we do things because that's how we've been doing it. And we can just sit around a table, look at the form and say, listen, we could either do away with this form, there's no use for it, or we can change it and make it easier, friendlier, requiring police certificates. That process, we can look at what that means, how it fits into today's society. Now we have email and all these things. Do we still have to do it the way we did it 20 years ago? So these are the kind of things that we're looking at. We're all coming around, different stakeholders coming around the table, looking at the process for what it is and trying to make the necessary changes to make it easier for everybody, not just for visitors, not just for business persons, but for us as Virgin Islanders, because we are competing and we're also trying to sustain our industries. And it's important that we do that by modernizing and streamlining and everything else that comes with the process.
Being more efficient.
Being more efficient.
Okay, so now one of the new things that's just come on stream is the permit to stay in the BVI. There was a time, and in many instances, I've learned that we have relaxed that policy, even though there was a policy that if you're going to change jobs, you have to leave the country, stay a month or 2, and then come back in with a new work permit to a new employer.
Correct.
That has changed.
Correct.
And so it's perhaps formal now that you no longer have to do that. What is that new policy, and how does it change things, and who qualifies for that?
Correct. So the policy that you're referring to is what we would call the change of jobs, change of status policy. So if you're changing jobs, as you said, ordinarily, you would have to leave or depart, exit the country, and come back on a new labor clearance, because there's a process that labor has to undergo for jobs in the territory, obviously. But we felt for persons who were living in the territory for 5 years or more, pretty much settled.
And these are persons who have had continuous permit renewals.
Correct. And living in the territory for a period of 5 years or more. We really were looking at those persons because we say these are people that would have been settled over a period of time, and to have to ask them to leave when they're changing jobs, we thought that was a little unreasonable. And so we sought to facilitate that sector of persons by allowing them to stay and issuing what we call a conditional permit. But the fee for the conditional permit is $250, and you have 90 days of which to seek employment for that duration of time. We also have change of status. So if you were, for example, residing with your spouse in the territory but decided you wanted to seek employment, that's called change of status. And in those cases, ordinarily there was no allowance for you to stay, so you had to leave and come back as well. But we are saying if you've been here for 3 years or more and you're seeking to change your status, you can remain under this conditional permit, seek employment for the 90 days, and you pay $250 for that fee, as
And-
opposed to having to leave, find your way, and then come back.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could definitely see how convenient that would be, and how economically efficient it would be as
Exactly.
well, because then person won't have to give up their apartment. The rent continues for the landlord.
Sure.
You know, have to look for a new tenant.
Correct.
You know, so there's a
So it's not just an issue of persons who are seeking employment who aren't from here, but there's also effect on the people who are from here, who are landlords.
there's
and
also
stuff.
effect on the economy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's an important decision. When you're talking about change of status, I don't know if I missed that in what you just said, but what does that mean?
Seeking, so when you come to immigration, you can get a status to reside with your spouse. So let's say you took up employment here in the BVI, but your spouse, you wanted to bring your spouse along. Him or her are not, they're not working, but they're residing with you,
Yeah.
right? On your time, so to speak. But your spouse has been here for 3 months, she decides, I want to work. She has
Okay.
to change her status.
So she's got to get a work permit.
Yes.
Okay. And so
She's no longer residing, but she's now seeking employment. And she would have to go through the labor process, et cetera, et cetera.
And what used to happen before now, would she have to leave the country?
Correct, yes.
She would have to
She
leave
would
the
have to
country
leave, yes.
and come back as a worker
Because
with
normally
a job
because normally you have to be outside of the country when you're seeking to work in the territory.
country. Okay, so now she could go and look for a job.
For the
So
90 days.
So she would have to come into the immigration department and the labor department and say, I want to look, I've been here with my husband, and he's working, and it's 3 months now and I want a job as well. I would like to get permission to go and seek employment.
That's right.
And so you would give him or her a document that
Correct.
gives permission to do
Stamp,
that.
yes.
Okay. And then once she finds an employer, then he can apply for a work permit for her and or him, and she could just stay until that
Correct.
process
Correct.
is finished.
Correct.
And that costs us $250 as well.
Yes. $250.
Okay. Well, I mean that's I think that's cool, and I got to take a break. But that again, that helps with keeping the families together, maintaining social cohesion, and I think it's important for us to highlight the importance of these policies, not just from border
Correct.
control,
But how it affects all the sectors.
but how it affects all the sectors.
Correct. Those two policies, is important to say also that it's 1 in every 5 years that we're allowing this to happen.
Okay.
Why are we doing this? Because experience has taught us that over the years, there's been some loopholes where people are just sort of abusing the system, and it's just a flip-flopping. So when you really should be outside of the territory seeking work, you might change your status back to residing. And, and there's this flip-flopping going on where people are sort of taking advantage of the different loopholes. So in this case, we are saying 1 in every 5 years, you're allowed to change your job or change your status. And that would prevent a lot of the flip-flopping. And we also didn't speak about the exceptional circumstances where persons who are, for example, work permit exempt, or persons who are married to BVI landers, those persons are exempted from we will review those cases under the exceptional circumstances clause of the policy, and we will consider that those persons wouldn't have to leave as well.
Okay, and so these are persons who would be seeking a work permit exemption.
But didn't meet the 5 or the 3 year criteria.
Okay, we're gonna take a break.
Okay.
And I want to come back to
Sure.
that aspect.
No problem.
That aspect of it.
Great.
Okay, we are going to be right back after these words from our sponsors. Keep it locked right at the Spotlight.
Spotlight is brought to you by CCT BVI, Life Unlimited, and the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, the official Bank of Paradise.
Instagram, you name it, I have it.
I use it for my internet, Skype, WhatsApp, YouTube, everything.
I can upload photos, share files, have meetings.
The data is ridiculously fast.
And when they switch to this LTE, wow, the speed is incredible.
Unlimited, unlimited, unlimited.
I don't have to go, how much data do I have? It's there. The other networks, I could WhatsApp on this one.
I absolutely love it. You have to get it, BVI.
Thank you, CCT.
Serving the community for over 25 years, Tortola Concrete Limited is the leading producer of concrete products in the BVI. With grades of 3,000 to 5,000 PSI, Tortola Concrete ready-mix quality unmatched in the industry, and we can mix to your specifications. Our aggregates are clean through our unique washing process for our smooth, clean mix. And our special chilling process makes our concrete crack resistant. Tortola Concrete Limited is the concrete company for all your quality concrete products. Gravel, road base, face stone, boulders, armor rock, coarse sand, terrace, and the cleanest, strongest, crack-resistant, ready-mix concrete. Tortola Concrete Batch Plan serve you Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. until the last load. Our knowledgeable, effective staff gives you free estimate and delivers on time to any location. Contact Tortola Concrete at 494-3259, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Conveniently located in Parkwood Pond near the BVI electricity plant. At Tortola Concrete Limited, the strength is in the mix.
What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? Hanging out on the corner where there is no future. What are you doing with your life? Tell me, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? That's what you should do with your life.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm having the most interesting conversation with Acting Chief Immigration Officer, Mrs. Geraldine Ritter Freeman, about the new policy changes, new policy initiatives in the Immigration Department. And we left off talking about exempt application.
Exceptional
process.
circumstances.
Exceptional
Clause,
circumstances
yes.
clause. Yeah. And I'm trying to understand that because I know people could apply for exemption from work permit once they were here for long periods of time and had somebody to recommend or to sponsor them or they had some ties to the community.
Correct.
Made contributions to the community, and so we would exempt them from work permit.
Sure.
This is a new twist on that policy?
No,
or
the
what is it?
exceptional circumstances clause has to do with the same policy we were speaking about when you're changing jobs or changing status. So if you are married to a BVI lander, for example, and you've only been here for a year, you don't qualify for the 5-year period that we were speaking about. But because you're married to a BVI lander, under those circumstances, you would not have to leave because that, and again, it's based on that application will come to the Chief Immigration Officer and it will be considered under the exceptional circumstances clause.
Oh, okay.
So that's another category of people that we're considering not asking to leave, even if they don't meet the 5-year or the 3-year specification requirement.
Criteria, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And that's again another good policy because I wouldn't want to have my wife have to go
exactly.
Yes.
So we're trying to be considerate and we're trying to facilitate where we can in that regard.
Okay. Now, that's until I guess as a BVI lander you apply for residency for your spouse.
Sure.
That would,
Or belonging status for your spouse.
So, well, while I have you on that subject,
Okay.
can you can you apply for, how long does your spouse have to be in the territory before you can apply for belonging status for that person?
5 years.
Okay, so you gotta
5
you gotta be
years.
married for 5 years.
And with living with your spouse
And
in the
living with your
territory for
spouse
5 years,
before,
yes.
and within that 5 year period, could you apply for any other type of status?
Such as? Which is-
Residency.
Well, belonger status is something that you gain through marriage, or you can gain it through descent, or you can gain it through tenure. So you can gain belonger status through, you can inherit it, so to speak, through descent, or you can gain it through 20 years. After living in a territory for 20 years, you can apply to become for residency status. And 12 months after that, you can apply for belonger status.
Okay, because
So that's through tenure.
I always thought of them as being two separate status. Residency is being one status with a set of rights and privileges, and belonger status being another with
Sure.
another set
And they
of
are.
rights and privileges.
And they
And
are.
I thought that one was quicker attained, more quickly attained than the other. I'm
No.
incorrect in that assumption.
No, the belonger status, again, there's 3 ways to get that,
Right.
right? And
But is residency the first status that I would apply for my spouse?
no, residency is not for your spouse. Residency is for persons who have lived in the territory for a number of years.
So I would
They
just apply
qualify for resident.
I would just apply for belonger status for my spouse
Correct,
one time.
correct. For
After 5 years.
After 5 years.
Okay.
There would be no need for him or her to want resident status. That's for persons who migrated to the Virgin Islands, and after living in the Virgin Islands for 20 plus years, they have that opportunity to apply for resident status. So you don't have to have both or one or the next. Generally, if you're married, you apply for belonger status for your spouse after 5 years.
Very good. Now the visa exemption is another.
Yes.
The visa exemption program is another new initiative. Tell us about that.
So the visa exemption program is one of the recommendations that again came about through the recommendations with the Labor and Immigration Subcommittee that came out as a result of the McKinsey study process as well. And that visa exemption program has been well received in the different sectors of the economy, because what that allows is for persons who would generally require a BVI visa, and there's a list of countries that require, in order to come to the Virgin Islands, they require a visa, a BVI visa. And so those persons, providing they have a US, UK, or Canada visa, we are allowing them to come to the Virgin Islands as a visitor for visiting purposes.
But hasn't that always been the case?
No, you have to have if you're from one of the countries on the list, you have to apply for a BVI
But I mean,
visa.
Canadians, United States citizens, weren't they allowed to come without a visa?
No, we're not talking about US, UK, and Canada citizens. We're talking about the people from those different countries who may have one of those visas, a US, UK, or Canada visa.
Okay.
We're not speaking about Canadians, Americans. No.
Not the citizens.
No, that's not who we're speaking about. We're speaking about people who would have a visa for those countries. They've gone through a process and obtained a visa for the US. They went through the process or obtained a visa for the UK or for Canada. And so they have those visas.
They already have a visitor's visa to go to the US.
There
They're coming
you go.
from Jamaica. They
There
got a
you
visitor's
go.
visa to go
There
to the US. You accept that visa.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
All right.
So they've already gone through that process, and we are satisfied that given the rigidity of that process, and we are satisfied that we can allow them
If
to
the
come
US
here.
accept them,
Exactly.
we shouldn't have a problem.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Cool. And what benefits are we seeing?
Well, certainly
being
we
derived
have
from that
what
policy?
we call our BV, which are business visitors, and it's so ironic because I was having a conversation with one of an individual I know who's in the financial services, for example, and she was just all up in arms about how facilitating it is, because a lot of business visitors do have US, UK, and visas. And so with that, we can invite them to come to the Virgin Islands for a business meeting, or if they have an interest in coming here for whatever reason, as a tourist or just to explore. they can come with that visa with no problem. They don't have to go through that other
That process again.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been a time. There was a time before
You would
this
have to,
this
yeah.
policy that if they were coming from one of the countries, I think
Sure.
Guyana, you have to
Guyana,
have a visa, right?
Jamaica.
Jamaica. If they were coming from one of the countries that you had to have a visa.
Correct.
Then they would have to go through that process, and if they
Absolutely.
were coming on business, it would take a long time. It would be
Yeah.
a hassle and have a negative economic impact. That's what the thought is.
Essentially, yes.
All right, cool. And is this something? Is there money involved? Is there something that they have
No,
to pay
there's no
for?
money. There's no money involved as yet. There's no money involved. We suspect that they would have gone through whatever process and pay whatever. So we're fine for now with regards to any payments and so forth. We do have some people who are of the view that, you know, it's sort of like a visa, like a waiver of the visa, and so maybe we can collect some monies. But we believe that the wider implication of having this class of persons or of this sector of people come to the Virgin Islands, we believe that those benefits far outweigh any little fee that we could perhaps attach to that at this time. But it's only up to 6 months. The visit
they
is
can
for
stay-
6
they can
months
stay
or
for
less.
6 months.
6 months or less. But persons should also know that when you come to the Virgin Islands, you usually are only given a 4 weeks pass. So after that 4 weeks, it's not an automatic 6 months at the port of entry, is what I'm trying to say. So you're given the month, and then you come to the immigration department if you require a further
Additional
extension.
time, and you can get an extension up to 6
Exactly,
months.
up to 6 months.
And you would have to justify the need for that extension.
Sure, well, we would ask our questions as we normally with any visitor.
Okay. And so can they work? I mean, can
No,
they
it's
can
not
they
for
can they
work.
can they well can they conduct business? I
It's-
mean, what
it's-
would be the need for me as a business person to come to the Virgin Islands from someplace where in Europe, someplace where I have to have a visa, have that exemption, you allow for my U.S. visa, my UK visa, my Canadian visa, and then I come and I stay for a month. I can stay for a month. What would make me want to come and stay that long if I'm not doing business?
Well, you have some of the industry folks coming in after me. They will be able to tell you better why one would want to come for a month to visit. But certainly, I imagine that there are those persons who come. It's generally for a short time, and that's why we say visit, to visit and not to work. But if the need arises for them to stay longer, that opportunity is there for them to do
But
so.
say they came and they wanted to open up a BVI business company.
Well, if they're coming here to explore that opportunity, then they're just visiting. They're just visiting and exploring opportunities.
Or would they be able to buy a business?
It's not, well,
I mean, I would say
Like
buy a business. I mean, open up a
well, that's a
business
process.
company.
That's a process that they would have to go through. And like I said,
But the immigration wouldn't negatively impact on that decision.
well, let me say this.
Because I'm looking. What I'm trying to determine here is the economic benefits of that policy.
Correct. And like I said, some of the folks you have coming on after me would be able to speak to that better than I can. But essentially, as it is now, it's for visiting purposes.
It's more for the tourism side.
Tourism and business. You can come as a business visitor. We have that category, what we call a BV, a business visitor.
Okay.
You're just not coming to work and work. We are also, as part of the committee, identifying work so that the general public has a greater appreciation of what we say, what we mean when we say work, because to some people work is one thing and to somebody else it's something else. So we're working on those kind of definitions, but essentially when we say if you have a visitor's visa, that's really what we're looking at, not a work visa.
Okay, cool. We finally at 3 o'clock.
Oh boy.
I don't know that what else we need to.
You're gonna have to bring me back for part 2 because there's so much to talk about when we're speaking about immigration. Immigration is like a buzzword now. We're getting ready to go and see the whole debate in the U.S. now. But there's so much to talk about, and hopefully I can come back and
you can come back.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can
You don't
talk.
have to hope. You don't have to hope.
Yeah, we can talk about the different areas of immigration. Tonight we only touched on reform and policy development, a little bit of it, because there's so many things that we are trying to accomplish. with the department with regards to reform and policy development. But then there's the law enforcement side. We're trying to strengthen our relationship with some of the other law enforcement agencies, customs, police, and we're even looking at our partners over in the U.S. Virgin Islands and strengthening those ties so that we can, secure all borders. Of course, we have the issue with the illegal immigrants and all these issues that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And there's so many more things. We have surveillance. We have our surveillance officers that deal with worksite inspections and making sure that people comply with the laws and so forth. We have a lot of people overstaying, number of offenses to the act that we really want to address.
You have some major enforcement issues.
We have enforcement issues. We really want to build, and we recognize, let me say this in closing, I recognize as the acting chief immigration officer and given the responsibility to lead this organization that we have a responsibility as well as an organization to uphold the law, and we have a responsibility to demonstrate that we are in fact capable of doing so. And we have our own issues that we're going to be working on internally, and we believe that once we make the necessary changes, albeit through reform and policy or just general changes to the way we conduct business, we believe the public will be responsive to the changes that we're making, and that we can be better gatekeepers as you were when we began the program in this regard. So I'm looking forward to being able to be there for this season and making a contribution. And also, like we said about the image, we know that the department has suffered from this terrible image over the years.
Immigration departments all
over the world.
Yes.
And so hopefully that we can do something to try to build a better image, because just 6 weeks on the job, Cromwell, I have such a great appreciation of the work. I've been spending my Fridays at the different ports up to like 10, 11 o'clock at night, having to deal with persons who are refused entry, and the hostility and all of that, the risk that is involved with the job, the commitment that one has to have to be able to endure 30 years of service in the same job and all of that. I mean, it's just such a great appreciation I have for the men and women that have been serving in this capacity. And hopefully we can share more about who we are and what we do. And the public, I think, can begin to see us a little differently than just the person not smiling at the port.
It's true. That's a good note to end.
Yes.
That's a good note to end on. But what all you have to do, I don't have no bureaucracy, and you're welcome anytime. Just give me a list of what you want to talk about.
Sure.
And because I know that tonight you are focusing on those two major policy changes, those two major policy initiatives, and we wanted to show the importance of them and what they meant for the growth and development of the country. So next time we're gonna give you the whole show.
Okay.
Right? And we're gonna plan for
and
the whole
me
show.
and you could talk. So.
We could talk. We have no problem. We will see how the time and gone already.
Exactly.
So we don't have no problem. So you just tell me, listen, I need a whole show, and I can give you the whole show. We're going to talk about immigration, but maybe we could even take phone calls to get the public involved as well.
Excellent. Wonderful.
It's a pleasure to see you.
And it's good to be here, Carmen.
And all the best in the new position.
And all the best to you, too.
Great. We're going to take a break for one from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to come back with the Director of Financial Services Implementation Union, Mr. Kedrick Malone, and Lisa Penn. Attorney Lisa Penn, some senior counsel at Walkers and BVI Forward Champion. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and CTL Home Center. The best products for the lowest prices, period.